I am Chad Mclean, and you are watching The Marcus Deegan Show.
The Marcus Deegan Show. What's the story, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast here at the world-famous Sticky Paws Studios. I'm your host, the Australian, the crazy one here, Marcus Deegan. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us on the channel once again. Got another great episode. One of my mates in the building today. There's a lot of levels to shit, right? And you guys know it. There's a lot of levels to fighting. There's a lot of levels to business. In life, there's levels to everything. This guy's pretty much gone from the bottom to the top, up and down. And we're going to have some really serious conversations about what this man's done. He's gone through trauma. He's a businessman. He's a dad. He's a veteran. And he's an all-around good bloke. Welcome to the podcast. His name sounds like a porn star, but it's not. Chad Mclean. What's
It is. The Angry Inch is here.
The Angry Inch.
That's it.
I like that. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
You just got into Vegas like literally an hour ago, right?
I did, yeah.
From where?
Arizona. It's a short, it's 4 hours, 20 minutes.
Is it as hot there as it is here?
100%.
It is?
100%. I would say it's hotter just because we're not surrounded by the mountains. I mean, we're in a valley, but not like this type of a valley here.
How did you and I get connected, Chad? Do you remember?
Wow. Jimmy Justice.
Jimmy Justice.
And I met that character at a Scottsdale farmer's market. He was out there for the Jake Paul fight. We were doing T-shirts. He loved what we were doing. And ever since then, me and that knucklehead have been connected.
Hey, how good of a guy is Jimmy Justice?
Love him.
I've known him for a long time. He's another one that's gone through some adversity in his life as well, currently as well. So,
yeah.
So that's how we got connected. Now, we got connected through him. And then I believe you and I spoke on the phone. I was going through some fucking heavy times.
Yeah.
It was before I started shooting my podcast again.
Yep.
I can't, those things get foggy to me sometimes, those memories.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would definitely say it was about a year and a half ago, you and I just started talking on Instagram. And then I said, hey, man, here's my cell. Like, if you're going through anything, like, fucking call it. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. And we didn't really know each other. But because I've been what I call the gray, I spent 20 plus years in the shit, whether it was pain pills or, alcohol or whatever the case may be. I just numbed out.
With anything?
Just
all?
And all. I didn't dive down the old cocaine, road.
You didn't go down that road?
Didn't go down that road. It's more of the opiates, pain pills. Because I blew my back out on a jump when I was in the military. And that's kind of the downgrade of my fall there.
Which is pretty much the downgrade of a lot of people's falls that get addicted to opiates as they have a back or a neck injury. I can vouch for that one. But, geez, I love those 30 milligram blue Roxys.
100%. And then you throw alcohol on top of it and you're a fucking rock star. And, I grew up in Billings, Montana. So when I went home after the military, it was immediately, let's test this dude out. And I was a bar fighter.
Yeah.
So the fight game I love, but shit, I know enough to get my ass handed to me real quick.
So how old were you when you went into the military?
Straight out of high school. So, the cap and gown weren't even on the ground.
Really?
I'm out to Georgia.
What, you 17?
18. I was 18. Yep.
That's right. You got to be 18 to join the military. And what did you go in specifically for? Did your parents say, get in there, or was that what you wanted to do?
I was a C student. I fucked off. I didn't really, academics wasn't not my thing. And so I just knew, college wasn't going to be it. If I needed to grow outside of the bounds of good old Billings, Montana, which at that time was 80,000 people, and that's the biggest city in Montana, I knew I had to do something. So
you had that at a young mindset. That's smart, at a young mindset to go, you know what, I'm going to go to the military and I'm going to...
Yeah, so jumped into the military. I went in as a regular 11 Bravo. So that's just infantry, right? Just grunt infantry is what they call it. Went through basic training. Just towards the end of basic training, ended up getting an airborne slot given to me. So did airborne, and then same
Jumping
thing.
out of planes and stuff?
Jumping out of planes, yep. Jumping out. And I fucking loved it, which is wild because I get car sick and I do get air sick. So I don't know how many jumps I would be on, and I would literally throw up as I'm coming out of the plane. Just because you got a C-130, right? And it's such a big plane, and you're jumping at low altitudes, and that thing just the turbulence just goes up and down, and it's like, okay, I'm going to lose cookies here today.
That always reminds me of that scene, which is obviously, remember in Rambo, in the first one, First Blood, where he jumps out of the plane, and then he gets hooked up, and he's holding onto the side of the plane there, and then he ends up cutting loose. Did you face any combat?
No, didn't have. We did some cool shit, but no, like full on Fallujah, Black Hawk Down, kind of combat. I ended up going to 2nd Ranger Battalion, which is part of Special Operations.
Wow.
And I was stationed at 2nd Ranger Battalion out in Fort Lewis, Washington.
And what was your specialty?
Well, I was a Gustav gunner. So it's an 84 millimeter recoilless rifle, and the concussion that comes off that damn thing is gnarly. It was a unit that actually, I think like 8 years ago, it was a weapon system that just got introduced to the regular Army, if you want to look at it that way. And I've been out 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
I was one of the first guys to go through javelin training. And if you've heard all the Ukraine shit when it was going, we're going to send these guys javelins. I was certified to be a javelin instructor at that young age.
Explain that.
So the javelin is this.
Like javelin.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of, sort of. That's kind
Because
of.
that's what I think, right? Javelin straight away.
So it's this massive. You have this sight that clips onto this rocket, and it's called the clue, and it's kind of a fire and forget kind of a deal. So you get onto your target, you lock it, you click the button, rocket goes out. You essentially detach the clue, which is the sight, from the canister. You crush the canister, and you get the hell out of Dodge. So it's a fire and forget weapon system, but it's essentially a shoulder-held rocket.
You'd be loving this right now, wouldn't you, Austin?
I know what javelins are.
There we go.
Well, he's a gun-crazed American.
Gotta be.
I'm just your average American.
Yeah, and to people from other countries, that means gun-crazed. I don't think that. I personally don't think that you gun.
Marcus, you have more Instagram stories holding a firearm than I do. Okay, let that sink in.
Yeah, because I'm new to the program.
Nah, you've been here long enough. You're an
No,
American,
but I'm new to the weapons program.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
new to actually owning my own weapon.
No shit.
I've got my first weapon now.
Okay.
I'm still in the learning process a bit. But let's not divert. Let's not divert and have this conversation go back to me and my irresponsible Instagram posts with brand new 12 gauge shotguns. So how long did you do in the military until you injured yourself?
So when I was at 2nd Ranger Battalion, we did a jump into Fairchild Air Force Base, which is in Spokane, and it was a whole battalion jump. So imagine a bunch of C-130s and anywhere, I think 300 to 400 dudes out in the air at one time. As I was coming down, my chute ended up collapsing. There was a parachute that was below me, and it stole my air. And next thing you know, they teach you in airborne school to run off the chute, right? It sounds fucking stupid.
Actually run?
Yeah, try to run off the canopy. And my canopy ended up collapsing. And at that point, I don't know.
And how high up were you when that
That's
happened?
the thing. I've been fighting through plant medicine journeys and ketamine journeys that I've
To
gone
find
through.
that out.
I've been trying to find that. Like, I don't know if it was 10 feet. I don't know if it was 100 feet. But I know when I hit and I woke up, everything from the waist down was completely numb. And so through that whole night is recollection, like I don't even remember getting back on the plane to go back to Fort Lewis, Washington.
So you obviously hit real hard.
Yeah.
And what damage did you do?
My lower back completely destroyed, blew
Yeah.
out my knees essentially, but you got to be an operator. If you're in special operations, 2nd Ranger Battalion, it's an area where a lot of young guys go to cut their teeth that want to go up through the ranks of special operations. Like Ranger Battalion's kind of the entry point for that. And for me, like, that's all I wanted to do because I knew I was an academic guy, right? And I knew, okay, like, if I put the work in here, it's going to happen. I can do it. And I'm a task guy. You tell me 20 push-ups, fuck, okay. We'll do the 20 push-ups and then we'll go for a ruck run. Whatever that looks like. I was very easy at just taking direction and doing it. So I was actually getting ready to transfer over to sniper section. But through that jump, I was just in a ton of pain. And before you know it, now you're talking to dudes like, hey, man, my back's messed up. Like, I don't want to say shit. I don't want to go on sick call. What do I do? And before you know it, here's your 800 milligram of ibuprofen, and then it goes down to, the little 30 milligram blue rocks that you're talking about to everything else. And then you're in the barracks, so you got nothing else to do. So you're
just
drinking.
chomping on fucking Loratabs.
Just fucking going to town on those. And
Percocets and Lories
and then drinking right on top of it. And you're in a barracks full of a bunch of alpha males. So think a bunch of 19-year-olds, to 25-year-olds that just are headstrong.
So there's some fights going on in there?
Oh, fuck. There probably wasn't a night that there wasn't at least a fight on one of the floors.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is this something that the CEOs get involved in and you guys get in trouble for?
No, they kind of stay away.
They just let it go,
Yeah,
right?
because your barracks, at night, your barracks are ran from essentially your staff sergeants down,
Yeah.
right? So, your platoon leaders, your staff sergeants and above. I mean, a lot of them are off base, right? Because they have families and they have houses, or they live on base with families.
And how many's
stuff.
in the one barrack?
I want to say it's like 100 to 150, and you got
Damn.
you got four platoons, right? You got a first platoon, a second platoon, a third platoon, and then we were in weapons platoon. And weapons platoon back in that day was like sniper section, mortars, Carl Gustav with what I shot, big heavy weapon systems, and then your 240 machine gunners and that kind of stuff. So we carried the load of that stuff for support by fire.
So what was it that exited you out of the military?
For me, it was I got honorably discharged. I was good to go, but I ended up getting booted out of Ranger Battalion for fighting. I went to the PX. So back in the day, we didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
And I was fucking broke as a joke, and I didn't know what to do. So I was all hopped up, went down to the PX and stole phone cards. Because I was like, I got to call my mom. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to at the barracks here. Just kind of felt like a lone wolf. So I ended up going and I stole fucking phone cards. So
And they busted you.
And they fucking busted me.
They sent you out.
And the MPs, man, they just said, man, we're not going to mess with you because what you're about to get at Ranger Battalion is something that most guys will never get. And the hazing at Battalion is fucking nuts. It's nuts.
So this is after the fact?
This is after
So
the
you
fact.
stole the phone cards,
Yep.
got caught, and then they sent you where?
So I stayed at Ranger Battalion, was just their bitch boy for a while. They kind of made an example of me. Because there's so much shit going on, I actually reconnected with my gunner probably a year and a half ago, and him and I talked about stuff. And he was telling me, like, there was guys that got caught fucking armed robbery, the whole 9 yards. He was like, dude, you stole phone cards. He goes, there was fucking dudes prostituting bitches out of the barracks and selling drugs and having gambling schemes. He's like, I think they purposely, because you got caught, made an example. I had to go in front of the whole company. I got called out on Monday morning. And essentially, First Sergeant Grippy, this guy was a beast. And I still remember it, him calling me up and saying, hey, man, PFC Elder, why don't you come up here?
And then you knew, here we go, here we go.
Yeah, I knew it was on like Donkey Kong. And I was like, I'm going to get fucked with, and I'm going to get fucked with hard. And I did for well over a month. And then after that, ended up getting transferred down to just a good old leg unit. You know, that's what I came in as. And my hopes and dreams are crushed because I didn't think I could recover from that, right? I'm 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's over. Like, I'll never be a special operations guy. I fucked up. I got this. Now it's on my record. I'll never get a security clearance again. I'm done. So I said, fuck it. And did my 4 years and got the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah. And then, so did you take any of your expertise from the Army into your next venture of employment?
No, I mean, I looked at that stuff, but same thing. I was so embarrassed, right? Like, I was looking at maybe going to be a cop or U.S. Marshals or something like that, but I was so embarrassed. A lot of people didn't really, even when I went home, had no idea what I did until they really dug or had a close friend.
What would you say? What did you say you did?
You know, I was like, yeah, I was in a Ranger Battalion. I kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
Well, what'd you do? Oh, I jumped out of planes and blew shit up. You know, I didn't want to get into it. I was fucking embarrassed.
You were ashamed.
I was ashamed.
Yeah.
And so I carried that. for 20 fucking years on top of childhood trauma and everything else. You know? And just
you had
stuff
you had a diddly uncle as well?
Not a diddly uncle.
A diddly aunt is even worse.
Hey, auntie. No, but I had a dad that carried, a heavy fist. You know?
Yeah.
So I had that, and my mom raised 3 kids on her own. You know, God bless her. She did the best she could with the tools that she fucking had.
Are they still around, your mum and dad?
Yeah, my mom is. She still lives she's in Arizona. My dad still lives up in Montana.
You guys good now?
Define good, I guess you'd say. You
Yeah.
know, my dad.
He's not coming over for Christmas?
No. We'll text.
You send him
know?
any Mental Joe apparel?
Yeah, I've sent him some
Have
gear.
you got a shirt that says, remember when you were a cunt to me?
Yeah, I want to send like the shirt I got on now. Own your shit.
Yeah.
Own your shit, you know? And the same thing, if you zoom out, right? I zoom out and I realize now that I'm at a place, thanks to psychedelics, now that I'm at a place where I can zoom out, look at my dad's upbringing and go, you know what? He wasn't loved.
Yeah.
He didn't have the fucking tools. He only did what he did because of what he had in his learned behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Same with my mom. You know, we found out, my grandmother was kind of a closet drunk and her whole family's full alcoholic. So it's like, I'm a kid of 2 alcoholic sides, so really, the 8 ball, behind that constantly. And
No pun.
Yeah, no pun. Yeah.
You got to laugh at trauma, guys. Listen,
have
I'm not
to.
making a joke of anything here because I can talk about these kind of things because I'm someone that's gone through a fuckload of it as well. And I'm not one that'll come out and go, oh, I've had this trauma, I've had that trauma. But when it comes up on the podcast, I'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I can talk about those things that have happened to me. That's why I make jokes about, the diddly uncle, because there was diddly uncles in my family. You know what I mean? There was.
And I think the reason we're starting to make it easier to talk about is, for me, I want to hold that space for the average Joe out there, right? Because I never hit the tip of the spear in the military, right? And I never knew what the full-on being part of the special operations community was.
Yeah.
I wasn't your top-tier athlete. I'm not a top-tier fighter. I'm a fucking average guy that's trying to make it through life.
Yeah.
And us average guys, we tend to, we go get the bottle or we pop pills because it's the easiest thing around us to numb out. And so I try.
Do you think that's a man thing or an average man thing?
I think that's just an all man thing,
Yeah.
right? We're raised in that masculinity of you can't talk about feelings, you can't talk about this, or it makes you fucking weak. And man, I have found out that the more I share, the stronger I am.
I agree with that.
I now how I raise my boys. Now my boys are 5 and 6. It's fucking wild. The difference from who Chad was 4 years ago to today. Completely different dudes.
And what would you say has been the major factor of that change of dude?
Yeah, I mean, I throw it on psychedelics, and ketamine was my catalyst. It'll be 4 years this coming up May that almost took my life.
You almost took it yourself?
Almost took it.
How far away from do you reckon you were?
Probably half a pound on the trigger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I had trigger tension. Me and my wife, we probably weren't not even a foot apart. We're just staring at each other.
While you were doing it?
Yeah, and I've got the gun to my head, and I got, it's tensions on the trigger. And I think there was just a lapse of time where we both paused because we knew, like, if the next sound or something, it was done.
Life changes forever.
Forever. And my 2 boys are sleeping in their room, and I'm in the hallway. And I just didn't know how to fucking react. What's crazy, I wasn't drunk. This was a sober fucking decision.
And do you think it was just a build-up of trauma and tension and anger that just came to that fucking...
Yeah. I didn't have the emotional intelligence to have a hard conversation.
With yourself?
Everybody.
Right.
Even if, like me and Carrie love each other. We are fucking thick as thieves again.
Yeah.
And I'm her safe space again.
Yeah.
But, like, neither one of us knew how to communicate with each other. And, again, psychedelics is what opened that for us. Like, I could finally see her and the trauma that I caused her and why she tenses up against me. Because what is she doing? She's waiting for me to fucking blow up again. She's waiting for another incident,
Yeah, that for her is probably something that's quite scarring.
Yeah.
To, see her husband in that sad, horrible state that, you must have... Would you say that was your rock bottom?
That was my rock bottom.
That was your rock bottom?
That was my rock bottom. Yeah, because I knew I was kind of, I hate to say it, but following maybe the footsteps of my dad. Was still drinking a little too much, would, sneak a pain pill here and there to, float a little bit easier. I was real short with my boys. And again, they were 2 and 3 at this time, right?
And the pain pills does that too. They make you short.
They make you super short.
They do.
Yep. And so my aggression, my anger and everything for 20 years is anyone that knew me, let's just say 5 years in the past, and they look at me now like, you are a different dude.
Yeah.
And, I'm almost down 60 pounds. I rarely fucking drink. I'll have a nice glass of whiskey with, dinner or something like that. But I don't drink to get fucked up or numb out anymore.
Yeah. So you eliminated that. So you've eliminated, are you sober now?
Yeah, I would say so. I was never... See, there's always those gray areas.
Yeah.
If you drink, you're an alcoholic.
Right.
It's like, no, like, I could wake up, go to work, I could still function. But when it was Friday and Saturday night, we poured it on. And I worked for the city of Billings. So I worked in a blue-collar job where there was a bar at the top of the hill called Buck's Bar, and we would go there after work. And I didn't have kids. I didn't have anything. So I go blow a paycheck and...
In one night?
Yeah, and we'd just go fight. Like I said, it's Montana.
Right.
Country boys are country boys. And it's like, you were fisticuffs in the bar a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Was there a lot of drugs in that growing up in that scene there?
There was, but I was so let's say, not attached to it. Like,
Yeah.
I barely even touched cannabis in high school because
Right.
I was a dare kid. So I was like, oh, people that smoke cannabis are idiots. They're losers.
Yeah.
Right? Meanwhile, now that I'm 22, 23 out of the military, I'm pounding alcohol with the best alcoholics at the bar,
Yeah.
and popping pain pills and fighting and everything else. But yeah, I would say,
So really, your journey to kind of sobriety and mental health has only been quite short.
yeah, I would say in the last 3.5 years. Yep.
So in 3.5 years, you've been able to create this business that you've got.
Yeah.
And you created it from past trauma, would you say?
I think so.
Do you
Yeah.
think that's part and parcel come into it?
100%. 100%. It's so let me back up a little bit. So this May will be 4 years that I almost took my life. When that happened, I went into intake and
Oh, so you went into the...
I went into the cuckoo bin for a good week. And I was,
Really?
Yeah, and I was there and I was lost. Here I am, I get the one phone call a day, and there's no, it's just books and you got to sit in all these group counseling and I'm like, why the fuck am I here? Like,
Was everyone like...
there was some, I'm going to say it, there were some window lickers there,
Yeah.
and you're like, what in the fuck am I doing here, And you're like, I don't belong here. And
Yeah.
so my wife did a bunch of research and she found ketamine. And she found it on a Joe Rogan podcast. He started talking about ketamine, and then she went down this ketamine rabbit hole. And then she was like, hey, there's this thing called ketamine. I didn't know what the fuck ketamine was.
We used to call it Special K.
Special K,
back in the day, which was used as a rave drug.
Yeah, 100%. And we got a shirt that says Special K on it. So I didn't understand. Like I said, I was very naive to all this stuff. And I just told her, I said, whatever it is, I don't care. I always use this terminology. I said, I don't care if it's petrified dog shit.
If it makes me feel better.
If it makes me feel better, I'm down. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so probably a week and a half after I got out of the cuckoo bin.
So you're on no antidepressants now either?
No, I've been almost a year and a half clean of any pharmaceuticals, any SSRIs, everything. Prior to that, for 20 plus years, I was on some kind of SSRI or some kind of depression or anxiety fucking medication. And then, sneaking your pain pills when I could.
Yeah.
But yeah, it literally in this last 3.5 years, man, like I have grown exponentially as a human being.
Would you say you had any negative effect from the military? Apart from the shame of being...
Yeah, I was still real embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
Because like...
Have you let that go now?
I think so.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of friends that are Navy SEALs and Rangers and, Delta guys and stuff like that. And I'm just like...
Because, if you own it and you talk about it, then it cancels out the embarrassment or the shame. Like you telling me that story, then I didn't look at you any differently. It's just part of your journey. It's a negative part of your journey.
It is.
You know what I mean?
And
at least you didn't suck a dick.
Exactly.
Now, if you had told me that, although I would have accepted it.
Yeah, we got
You know what I mean? I would have. It's not something that I would not have accepted you before, but I just would have moved on with the...
No P. Diddy-ness right here. No P. Diddy, right?
No P. Diddley. Yeah. So the ketamine, you think it's the ketamine is what's
100%. And I'll argue any doctor or any psychologist about it because I went through all your talk therapies. What happens with psychedelics is psychedelics essentially remaps your brain. It remaps your neurotransmitters. It grows new neurotransmitters. Like there's enough documentation and research out there. It is proven.
And they're doing it more and more and more. I read a little bit more on it this morning, how for especially with, and this is what I love about it, for anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
It's really helping a lot of people with that side of their mental disorder, that they don't have to use, pharmaceuticals.
Well, you get out of like the default mode network. And I kind of explain it to people like this. Think of like a depressed brain or an anxiety brain or just mental health, right? Look at it as like you're driving down a frontage road and that's all you know. Like there's no exits, there's no off ramps. It's just this frontage road. And every once in a while you might see a deer or something pop out, right? And it startles you, but that's it. That's all you see, right? It's tunnel vision. Now introduce ketamine, some sort of psychedelics that is done right with intention, right? With something behind it that you want to grow, right? We always say set an intention and have a safe space when you do this. And anytime I do this, I'm with somebody that understands the medicine, or I'm at a clinic that does this, right? Like I'm not willy-nilly taking this shit at home.
Right.
I'm actually setting an intention and doing it with right
Because
safe.
they do it intravenously, right?
Yeah, so
And they drip it, right?
yeah, there's two ways to do the ketamine, which is intravenously and then intermuscular, where it's just right.
And then how
right
long
in
does
the
it
arm.
take through the arm?
Through the arm, I want to say it's probably about a 20-minute takeoff. You can kind of start feeling it, and then all of a sudden it'll hit you. To where the intermuscular, I felt like that was like 5 minutes.
Right, but the intravenous is like 8 seconds.
And it just cruise. You just kind of cruise, and you can kind of dial that in. To where if you do it intermuscular, it's an immediate punch in the mouth. Like, and you ain't coming out of it because the medicine's in you.
Yeah,
Right?
and then how long does that last for?
Anywhere, it depends on the person, but you're looking at 20 minutes to 40 minutes in that range. I think the first shot of the intermuscular, I think it was like 25 minutes for me.
And what are you feeling in that sense? Are you able to get up and move around, or are you seated?
No, fuck no. I'm seated. I've got some videos I can show you on my cell phone about it, but
Yeah. Does your face look different and stuff?
I got a mask on,
Yeah.
and I'm in a zero gravity chair, and I got like a 15-pound blanket that's on me.
Why do you get cold?
Well, sensory, and you get cold and things of that nature.
Yeah. You get horny on it?
Oh, I did.
You
yeah,
did?
Yeah. Like there was a previous ketamine session probably about 9 months ago where my wife, she usually is there watching me and taking pictures and all that, and I was like
Jerking off?
yeah. And I was telling her,
Make sure it's not a group one and you come out of it. Hey, fuck, sorry, it's the ketamine.
yeah. Hey guys, what's going on? But she was laughing her ass off because she's like, dude, you were the whole time. She's like, all you talked about is how you're going to take care of me, and she's like,
So you don't remember?
I don't. And she was like, you were super horny. The nurses were even laughing their ass off.
You're like finger banging her. And
Yeah, I'm like, come here, girl. Come on, saddle me up.
So it does have that effect on you then?
I'm going to call them journeys or sessions. Each one is differently. So the intermuscular one that I just did, I think it was end of December. I did my intermuscular.
So
one.
these are only something you don't do this every day.
No, fuck no. When I
Why?
when I first started doing ketamine, I was doing it probably every 30 days. And what I
Just one big banger every 30 days.
and what I was feeling is like I could then tune into the body. I know it sounds hokey pokey, but like I could realize, okay, I'm clenching my fist, I'm clenching my jaws, I'm getting more irritable. Okay, maybe it's time to go in and do a little reset. Kind of like a Control-Alt-Delete for a computer, right? And then next thing you know, it's like 3 months. Oh, fuck, I went 3 months. I didn't have an episode. I didn't feel angry, but I'm feeling agitated. Let me go in. And so then I would start gauging it like that, and I would journal and, figure the flow out. So now I do ketamine probably every 8 months. I'll go in and do kind of a reset.
And how long's the session last?
For me, the session as a whole is probably an hour and 30 minutes.
Is it a rush when it hits you?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes out of nowhere. And again, each one is different. When I went in this last intermuscular one, when they hit me with it, like before I was even out or going into it, like I just remember screaming, like, let's go, motherfuckers. Come on, motherfuckers. It's on.
Really?
Like, I got rid of so much anger in that session. Like after the session, I puked probably 10 times.
Really?
I just got rid of stuff. And again, I know it sounds hokey for the listeners. I get it. I'm the dude going in, okay, what's up with the purple hair and nose ring, you fucking weirdos, right? Like,
Yeah, you're liberal.
Yeah, I get it. I fucking get it. So when I talk like this, like it's weird because I would never think that I'm talking about this type of stuff the way that I am.
Right.
But when I got into this one, like as soon as I was done with come on, you motherfuckers, and let's go, I almost get choked up every time I talk about this one. My littlest son came into me, and all he said was, "Dad, I'm waiting for you."
So did it actually happen, or this is what you?
No, this is what I felt, and this is the vision I had while I was in the ketamine. And what was great is
What was the subliminal message behind that?
I'll connect it for you. And so as I'm going to say space holder is there, she's actually taking notes of everything I'm saying so I can review it later, right? And that's why I love this ketamine. It's Enlighten Wellness in Scottsdale, Arizona, and fucking amazing. Wow. And so it was the first ketamine session I had where someone actually wrote down and I could reflect immediately. So give it 2 weeks. So I get out of that session, and so now I have all these notes and I'm reviewing them, and I didn't, I'm just like, okay, I'll just pay attention to what's going on.
You don't remember as you're in the session, you don't remember saying these. It's like you're on an anesthetic, right?
100%. That's what ketamine was kind of used for back in World
Horse
War II.
anesthetic, right?
Yes. Yep.
For horses.
Yep. 100%. And so about 2 weeks later, I'm laying there and I'm watching my little boy sleep. Colin is his name. And he's starting to sleep. You see the breast coming in and out. And I was like, hey, buddy, I love you. He's like, love you too, Dad. And then all of a sudden, I had another, like, okay, I got to say this. I was like, hey, I got you. And all he replied was, I know. And that's where the dots connected for me. How I connect that is I look at it as my littlest was waiting for me to level up so he could be his true self, if that makes sense.
It does.
And it's fucking wild because my wife saw it too. Literally, this little dude, ever since that happened, will not leave me.
Really?
I only put him, he only wants me putting him to bed usually. He only wants me to rub his back. Like he is my bro. Like,
Nice,
and,
man.
and that all connected through ketamine
Yeah.
and having someone write that down and really kind of connecting the dots. And so psychedelics, again, has really slowed me down to kind of zoom out and look at things and try to connect different dots. Like I said, with the frontage road, now that I've done the psychedelics, I'm not on the frontage road anymore. I have exited the frontage road, and now I can look at all these informational highways and learn how to react to things differently, not react to things, realize, where I'm self-sabotaging and things of that nature.
Is ketamine a psychedelic?
I don't know if you'd full on call it a psychedelic, but it has those tendencies.
To have visions and stuff
For
like
sure,
that.
yeah.
George, have you experienced with ketamine? Because I know that you are an advocate for this kind of medicine.
Yeah, I have not, but I definitely I want to do it in a facility. I don't want to go to a rave and then have somebody K-hole me.
Yeah,
I would rather be in the weighted blanket sounded so nice.
I'll show you guys the video. I'll show you that afterwards because I have it on my
We'll
phone.
add it to the pod here, so it's playing right now.
Yeah, and in this video you can see me, and I literally tear my shirt and I tear this fucking blanket. That's how much anger I had, and I didn't realize it, but they moved me away from the wall because I was punching the wall as well. Wow. But what I found out through that ketamine session is I wasn't mad at my dad, right? I wasn't mad at my mom. I was mad at myself.
Yeah.
Because I knew what the fucking standard was, and I didn't uphold the standard, or I didn't put the reps in. I knew I had to put the reps in to be successful, or at least start in that direction. But I was like, well, I used to be a ranger, so I should be able to do 100 push-ups and run 18 miles real quick. No, you fucking idiot. You're 40 plus years old with blown out knees and a back. Let's just start with a walk.
Yeah.
And then start leveling up from there. And so that's what it's done for me. Now I'm starting to see the old Chad that was willing to kind of okay, we broke that ceiling. What's next?
It's once again, it comes down to what makes you feel better, right? Things that make you a better person. And if ketamine can do that for someone, I'd like to try it for myself. George?
Yeah. I think I want to film you. Well, after knowing that he's going to get horny, maybe I should have a girl.
That was one session out of 25. One session out of
knowing
25.
Marcus, it'll be 1 for 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll film.
You guys,
we gotta film this.
And I will tell you this too. I mean, if you guys get froggy, I praise them, Enlightened Wellness in Scottsdale, because I'm telling you, I went through 6 different ketamine clinics, and I don't want to bash anybody, but at the end of the day, there was some clinics I went into, and they stuck you with your needle and the medicine and pulled the curtain, and it was essentially good fucking luck.
Oh, really? There was no one there monitoring you or anything?
Correct.
And what are these guys called?
Enlightened Wellness.
Enlightened Wellness
yes, in
Scottsdale, Arizona.
So if you guys want to take a road trip, I'm sure, I could facilitate that and get that going. We're actually talking about me doing a live streamed ketamine session because so many people are scared of it. They're like, what the fuck, man? I don't that's nerve wracking. And I'm like, well, I'm a guinea pig. Fuck it.
Is it expensive? Can you get it on your insurance? Is that something you can?
So that's the other caveat. You got to come out of pocket with this stuff.
Is it expensive?
They call it there's a 6 blast is what they do. And that's usually 6 sessions, and it's about $3,500
for 6.
Yeah. And then you get some integration, which is essentially talk therapy, right? And you're connecting dots and things of that nature. But like I said, I went through probably 6 different clinics, and 2 of them in Phoenix that we refer first responders to, and militaries and your average Joes to. They do it right. One is intermuscular, which is Enlightened Wellness, and the other one is Rising Health in Phoenix, and that's Jen and Paul, and he's an active duty firefighter in Phoenix as well. So
And he has a ketamine business.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because I mean they're
So
starting
he's seeing benefits from it, obviously, too.
100%, and some of the first responders, SWAT guys and stuff are going to these clinics, and they're coming out going, "Holy shit, man! I didn't realize I was holding on to all this stuff." So if
Yeah.
it's done right, like again, I think psychedelics could literally change the world.
It can
and
be
we-
life-changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we couldn't be so venomous as a culture with each other if everyone would just take a pause for a day and maybe go take a gram of 2 or mushrooms and go sit underneath a tree and just fucking breathe.
I think it still, to this day, has that negative side that
does.
people talk about because it's used in a sense of where people talk about drugs. Like,
Yep.
I was listening to Justin Bieber the other day. He goes, "Yeah, I was doing E, I was doing coke, I was taking shrooms." You know what I mean? It's all
Yeah.
when it's thrown into that.
It's all in one bucket.
Yeah.
And it's not right.
It's not. It's not
No.
because it's got to be looked at differently. It's got to be looked at as a medication or something that you're just trying to get high from. Right?
Yep. And I think, one, you're fighting that stigma, and then you have Big Pharma who's looking in, and they know because Big Pharma is trying to create synthetic DMT and synthetic, like the Bufo shirt you have on, right? They're trying to create synthetic psilocybin as well. So it's like we can grow this shit, and you have pharmaceutical companies that are trying to patent this stuff in synthetics because they know it works.
I liked what Greg said. He said, "These medicines are divine to us. It's our human right.
100%.
If God put them on the earth for us to use as whatever it is, whether it's as a medicine, a pain
Yeah.
reliever, or antidepressant, then we should be allowed to."
And I'm not a Bible guy, right? So I can't tell you, but the folks out there that know, like, there's a section in the Bible that actually talks about, I have put these plants on earth for you to use, and blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't know all the
and
verbiage.
animals as well.
So it's there. So it's like, it's funny to me because that's some of the biggest, some of the folks that are uber religious, like they just look at me like I'm a fucking nutball. And I'm just like, but they're going to go home and they're going to have their 18 glasses of wine or whatever that looks
Right.
like. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're solid. Things are going well for you,
Yeah. Yeah, it's I didn't know that Big Pharma was going to make.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I'm Carrie and I have dove into this area quite a bit to educate ourselves. And so that's the whole shtick behind the apparel, right? Is to have some fun designs and things of that nature. So people look at that and go, well, what is that about? And before you know it, now you're having a conversation about psychedelics and your trauma, and the person across from you, now that you're having a conversation with is going, well, man, I have some of the similar stuff. Well, have you thought about doing ketamine? Have you thought about microdosing? Well, they're drugs. Well, here's a podcast. Here's a documentary. And that's how I look at Mental Joe as we're building a community through apparel and awareness, right? Like, I don't want nothing to do with retreats or healing people or any of that. I just simply want to be an advocate for this stuff because, like I said, I was in the gray for 20 years. I lived numb for 20 years. I feel like I've lived more life in the last 3.5 years than I have in my last 22 years.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the apparel from Mental Joe. And let me just say, I've got a bunch of the shirts and hats and stuff. First and foremost, the quality is sick.
Thank you.
The quality is great. This is actually the same one that you've got on. Are in your shit. I really like that. Did you come up with that? You come up with all these?
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, the own your shit, that was just kind of a phrase for me where I literally, in order for me to be a better human being, I was like, I got to own my shit, man. Whether I like it or not, I got to set in it and I got to own it. And then that's our monkey do. Little you good on his hat, and he's got the mushrooms in his sunglasses with a big old shit-eating grin on his face, So we try to do these things so they're fun. We're actually talking with an athleisure company right now out of Vancouver that we're going to start, releasing some joggers and some polos that are really nice, right? Because when we went to this MAPS conference back in June, and it's the largest psychedelics conference in the world. And it was last June. They're going to have it again in Denver next year in 2025. But I had a lot of doctors and attorneys and stuff come up and say, hey, man, I really dig the shirts and the design, but I can't wear that in my clinic. Will you guys ever come out with a clean looking polo or just t-shirts? And so what we're going to do with the athleisure line is that'll be just
Update it from t-shirts to a little bit more business wear.
Exactly. So then
That's awesome.
That way, if you want to go out to dinner, you're still supporting the mental Joe cause and mental health and the non-traditional means of getting better. But you don't have to wear the fun, crazy T-shirt either. You can wear some joggers, but you can still support the mission.
But the hats are sick as well. You can see the hat. The hats actually are right behind Chad there. The ego and the my favorite's the buffalo going. I mean, I'm sure, is that your biggest seller, the buffalo going into the storm?
Believe it or not, so the 3 hats that we have that I did custom hats on, the buffalo, the ego, and then the little bear with mushrooms.
Yeah.
Those are our biggest sellers. Like the buffalo, if people, and I know Greg explained it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But if people don't understand it, the buffalo's the only animal that will literally turn and go through a storm because it knows that if I can go through that storm I can go through the storm quicker head on.
I can get out of it on the other
Yeah,
side.
and so that's why we have the psychedelic buffalo, right? Because you don't know what you're ever getting into when you do the psychedelics.
Yeah. The psychedelic buffalo is not to get confused with cocaine bear.
Two different.
Two pretty powerful animals on substances, to be quite honest, but I'm going to stick with the buffalo. But yeah, that's awesome, man. And like you said, these designs just come out of nowhere. Sometimes you'll be microdosing and you'll get a vision and you'll just go write it down.
I'll get something. I mean, and I've got probably 40 other designs that are sitting in the hopper. But same thing, being a mom and pop shop, right? Like I literally feel like we're still moving forward and we've done really well in, it'll be 2 years this May, even for us, that we've been a company. But I feel like I'm moving gas station to gas station, right? Like a little bit of profit. Okay, now we got to go here. Okay, now we can release this shirt. Okay, now we can try this hoodie. Now we can try this hat. So in that terms, like we move a little bit slower. So, I mean, I've got designs coming out the wazoo, but it's like.
Do you draw?
I sketch. But not like, I'm not a good graphic designer. Put it that way.
You just have it up there, and
I have it up there.
Tell the graphic designer, and
yep, I got a guy that works for us. He freelances for us.
Yeah.
And I'll sketch something or I'll bullet point it out, and I'll send it to him. And man,
he does it exactly how you want it.
Almost perfect.
Yeah.
What's wild about my GD is him and I have never met. We've never been on the phone. We've never had a Zoom call. It's all email.
Really?
And I've always offered it to him, like, hey man, like as we grow, like. And he's just, no, man, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, bro.
There's a reason why you haven't spoken. He's probably, hey, thank you for the design. I really appreciate it.
My precious. But no, it's, they kind of come to us. And like I said, as the athleisure ones, like we're going to have some just simple things on it, right? It'll just be one word, gratitude or grateful. That'll be on a T-shirt. That'll be really small and just super clean. This will be kind of like our Black Rifle Coffee / grunt style, like in your face T-shirt psychedelics that you'll wear at a rave or a fun party or something like that, or just fucking
on the podcast.
On the podcast,
I went for one whole week there, and every single podcast I did, I was wearing Mental Joe apparel.
Dude, I loved it. I couldn't share the reels fast enough.
I know, I love it.
Coming at me.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's good gear, and it's good because did you see this one, George, with the toad?
Yeah.
You know how they lick. Mike Tyson was into it.
Yeah, licking the frog.
Yeah.
Licking the toad.
Licking the toad.
Have you done that?
Yeah, I have done toad.
Oh my God.
And it was fucking wild. So I've got a really good friend who is part of a tribe down in Mexico, and he holds space down there for a lot of veterans. They have a huge toad farm. So every year, I think it's June or July, he said, they harvest it. So they do a full ceremony for the toads, right? And what's crazy is he showed me the 2 different types of medicine coming from the same toad. And so when you do ceremony and you ask for it, and what they do is they kind of secrete it like a zit, right? They kind of pull it out with their thumb, and then I believe they put it on like.
What color is it?
It's a light brown. But what was crazy is he showed me the medicine of toads that they would take aggressively, like not do a ceremony, just grab the toad, take the medicine, and move on, like. The medicine they took from the toad that was like, let's say aggressively, was a super, super dark brown kind of red, like just gross looking. And then the medicine they took from a toad that, they did ceremony and they did it the right way and they left some medicine with the toad so it could protect itself. Super like light brown, crystal clear. So there's a difference in even how you get this stuff. And so they go, like I said, I think it's either June or July during monsoon down in Mexico. And they turn on spotlights because the toads will go towards the spotlight to go eat, and they'll dump buckets of, crickets and shit.
And
they'll
you just
go
see
eat.
20 Mexicans with toes in their hands.
That's
going,
it.
Hey, Manuel, this is a
Yeah.
good one.
You can see where they're at. Like there's toads that are just smashed on the road because there's so many of them.
Wow.
So they have like this sanctuary, and they go through that with it.
Now, so explain the process of that. So you went there. Do you go to like a cabin? Are you in the woods or something, or is it like?
Yeah. We'll go there. We'll go there
Yeah,
with that one.
yeah.
But it was wild. Again, I don't know any of this stuff, but
Yeah.
I trust the guy holding space for me.
Yeah.
And the first time I did it, they put it in a pipe and you smoke it, and before it really even gets to you, dude, it is fucking game over. It's a rocket ship, and a lot of people have really bad bufo or DMT experiences.
I've heard that.
and it's because it's a rough medicine. They call it the God molecule for a reason. For me, it was weird. It was crystal clear. It was like I was in a kaleidoscope of just bright colors.
That's all you could visually
That's
see.
all I could-
Were your eyes shut?
Eyes were shut.
Are you leaning back with your eyes shut?
Yeah, I
'cause
was
you're
li-
that smashed.
Yeah, I was laying on the ground, just body wide open. But it was one of the most beautiful experiences I've had. I've had more, let's call them bad trips if you want to, on ketamine
Oh, really?
than I
Yeah.
did with the bufo. But after talking to him, he's like, well, it's because you're putting in the work. He's like, you're surfacing your trauma, you're getting rid of it, you're talking about it, you're living life a little bit different. And so, in that kind of culture, like, hey man, like medicine didn't have anything to show you this time. Like, it's just telling you everything's good. Just stick in there. You're good.
Would you do that, George? Would you try the frog?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't wait till I am, I'm putting a lot of work and effort in here, and like one day I'm just gonna go travel the world and do all these crazy fucking things.
Yeah. Well, and it's
I gotta experience it.
yeah, it's wild. And the same thing, like all this stuff, it's literally life changing. And it helps you pause and just look at us as a large community in the world. Like all the wars and stuff, it fucking drives me nuts. Like we're literally just blasting people off the planet because we can't come to an agreement on something. Now there's some evil out there and there's some shitheads, and we all know that. But
They're running the country.
exactly. But 90% of people in the world are good fucking people that want to raise their family, that want to be left alone, and just want a happy life, man. At the end of the day, that's it.
Yep. What I've found, and you were actually the one that put the psychedelics thing into my head. You said and all it was is, hey, bro, have you ever tried psychedelics?
Yeah.
And that's all it took. And then it kind of went from there into researching it a little bit,
Yep.
getting over the fear of taking it, getting hooked up with Muse.
Yep.
And that's all she wrote. I wouldn't say that I'm in a place where I think that I'm mentally pretty good right now.
Yeah.
However, what I like about the microdosing of the psychedelics is the focus and enhanced feeling of enjoyment, really, without physically feeling like you're high. It's an internal feeling of focus and being genuinely in the moment is
Present.
what I found. Yes,
Being present.
right?
Yep.
Because I was saying that to Greg. I worry about the past. It's done. I fret about the future, and you tend to not. When you're doing those things, you don't really. You're not living.
No.
And living is about this is like what you're
Right
doing.
now, what we're doing right now
Yes,
is living.
and it took me a long time to learn that, man.
Yep, and same. I mean, like I said, until I started doing ketamine or the psychedelic stuff, like I remember looking in my backyard and it was just trashed, right? The boys' toys are everywhere, and I'm fucking OCD to the max. And I didn't care. I just looked at it and I was like, man, I really paused. I looked at it and said, there's going to be a time that I'm going to wish my backyard was a disaster. Right then, I was like, whoa, that's what it's like to live present.
Yeah.
So from there on, like now we're dumb humans, right? I'm still going to worry about the future and things of that, but I live more present now because of these drugs, substances, medicines, whatever label we want to put on these. But I live in the now. To where before, 20 years prior to that, like I was so worried about shit that was never ever going to happen, or I was worried about what people would think of me because of X, Y, and Z, that I never lived to my true potential. And I feel like I'm finally on that path of, what does Chad have in the gas tank left? Like, I'm never going to be an operator. I'm never going to be a UFC fighter. That shit's dead and gone. I'm too old for that. But there's a lot of runway left in front of me. What can I do with that runway?
Right.
So,
Yeah, man, and I just like the conversations that I've been able to have from it. I like that, I got to meet Greg and and this wonderful company Muse, which I'm sure is helping a lot of people. And what I like about this product is it's controlled.
Yep.
It is up to you to how deep you want to go with your. I don't want to say trip. I want to
Yeah.
go away from
I
that
hate
word.
that
eh?
word too.
I want to
do.
go away from that
Yeah.
word because it's not a trip. What word would you use, George? You're like what journey you want to go on is up to you.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, Journey.
Journey.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Let me get my.
Yeah, I
crazy
like
brain
Journey.
on.
I think that's fresh. It's clean. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like if you want to go down to the depths of hell,
Yep.
all right, buckle up, bitches.
Eat that whole thing
Eat
if
the
you want
whole
to go
thing.
down to the depths of hell. Right?
If you want,
And when you say when he says the depths of hell, once again, that's kind of a scary, trippy kind of
sure.
conversation that people have. Meaning, if you want to go deep, meaning go all the way down into the back of your brain,
Yeah,
possibly,
yep.
then you would go a little bit more and you would macro dose. Personally, for me, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
I like doing the controlled microdose, and then maybe if someone said to me the other day, "How you going with it?" I said, "Great." He said, has it made you want to go a bit further?" And I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
Whereas before it didn't. Now that I'm having some experience with the
Yeah.
medicine, I figure that maybe there's a little step further that I could go now.
yeah, and I think that's a good way to go about it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think some people they just jump off the ship without knowing. And that was the other thing is like with ketamine. This is why I'm such a big advocate of ketamine. Is what a lot of people don't realize is you got to be off of all pain pills. You got to be off of all SSRIs. A lot of the retreats in Peru and Mexico and stuff, they will not, because they do a bunch of intake stuff. They don't want you on a bunch of what we call gear or pills, right? They don't want you on that stuff when you're coming down to do an ayahuasca ceremony or a bufo ceremony or a psilocybin ceremony, right? They want you clean. And that's hard for a lot of veterans. That's hard for a lot of hard for a lot of people. If you've been on antidepressants or something for 20 plus years, like, yeah, exactly. Hello, it's hard to just jump off that shit to go try a ceremony in Peru. Ketamine helped me. Like I was on 150 milligrams of Effexor. That's how numbed out I was.
That's a lot.
So I went
A
from,
day.
yes.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
So I went from $150 to 75 to 32. And now I've been clean of all of that bullshit for over a year.
Did you go through a detox from the antidepressants,
Oh,
like that
fuck.
zappy feeling
Oh,
and the
fuck.
that's my fear.
So I went from the 150 down to the 75. And man, I will not lie to people. I thought I was going to fucking die.
Yeah, man, it's bad.
I was in bed I felt like it was like 2 weeks. I could barely get out of bed, like go shower and go back to bed. My body hurt so bad. And I'm a fucking idiot. That's on me. I didn't do it through a doctor or anything. I just said, "Oh, I'm in a good headspace. Let me come off this shit."
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, you can't do it like that.
No. So not recommended.
Yeah.
But that's what I did. And so that's why I tell people, like, man, I've done a lot of this stuff the hard way without integration coaches, with just jumping off of medication. But through the process, I've journaled enough and I've kept enough mental notes to know, okay, that didn't work, but this does work. And this is why this works over here.
If someone wants to buy all these shirts and hats and badass stuff,
Yeah.
where's the best place to find it?
Yeah, best place to do that is mentaljoe.com, or we're on the good old social media. It's at Mental Joe Apparel for Instagram and Facebook. We're just getting into that TikTok world and all that kind of bullshit. Like I said, I'll be 46 this fall, man. So like the whole social media game to me is weird. Like we've grown, in the last 2 years, like when I had an Instagram account, I don't think I had more than 300 people. So we've grown it organically to almost 3,000 people in 2 years. So like we know there's an audience for it. People are, Carrie and I are pretty authentic and genuine in our approach, because it's the average Joe just needs to know this shit's out there.
And like, if someone wants to like talk to you about, like maybe like I did, just for some advice or just to be pointed in the right direction, are you cool with people reaching out to you on
100%. I mean, that's one of the. So my wife just got done with a psychedelic integration coaching thing called Being True to You, where they teach you about the medicines. It's like you become a coach / I don't want to say therapist, but for people that are going through this stuff or going through journeys. And that was one of the biggest things we talked about doing, because no bullshit, we probably have 1 person a day that is reaching out to us since we have starting to grow. And they're
So great.
And they're like, hey man, like what ketamine clinics do you recommend in the Valley? Or, hey, what facilitators in Peru or Mexico do you recommend? And so I'll send them to different retreats and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got people reaching out to us all the time. And that's one of the things I'm drowning in is like, we have so many people that are reaching out to us. Like we put so much attention into that shit sometimes that I forget I got to go do social media, or I got to order shirts, or I got to get hats in, or I've got this collaborate. Like, and I'm a one-man band. It's me, and Carrie jumps in when she can.
So what are you doing here in Vegas? Business?
Yeah. So one was to see your beautiful face. I'm glad we finally connected.
Yep.
And then talking with two different people today that might help us out on some backside stuff that
Nice.
could elevate and take some things off my plate so we can grow this differently.
What I like about you is that this obviously isn't you're not doing it for monetary
No.
reasons. You're not doing it for money. You're doing it because you love it, for one,
Yeah.
and I suppose the gratification that you get from helping people or seeing the reaction that people have when they see your clothes,
That's cool.
and you have a lot of people that come up to you and go, "That is a fucking cool shirt," because it happened to me
does.
when I was wearing the Into the Storm shirt. I
Yeah.
had it at least 3 times. So I suppose that you get that a lot. So I'm really happy that everything's going in the right direction. Would you say that your life is good right now? Family, life, business,
on
everything?
point. But the only thing that's not on point is my wallet. It's very negative. But but I look at that. I look at it now as like, okay, that's part of starting a business. You're gonna be in debt. Like, it's part of the journey. It's part of the fight.
Yeah.
But like, people that get what we're doing get what we're doing. And it's like you, right? You followed me. I followed you. We started talking, and I just, hey man, I know you're going through some shit. Have you thought about looking into ketamine or psychedelics to help you?
Yep.
And here we are a year later.
Yep.
Now you're microdosing. And
Yep.
I don't force it on people. It's
Nah.
like I said, I literally want to be a tool for awareness of like, hey, there's other ways to heal. You don't have to pop pills and go the traditional talk therapy that sadly doesn't work for a lot of us.
Yeah. Holistic way can definitely be a better alternative for some people that maybe have tried other things and it hasn't worked. Man, so, and without saying one of your quotes from one of your shirts, the way that I like to kind of close things off when I'm doing my show is I always like to ask my guests the same question. Sometimes they can answer it, sometimes they can't.
Okay.
Chad Mclean, what is your message?
Man, my message would be is like, y'all don't realize how close we really are. We're not really that much different, right? And if we could all pause and if we could all zoom out and take a deep breath, I think as a world, as a culture, as a community, we can be in a much better place. And I do believe psychedelics could be something to get us there. Brother. Appreciate you, man.
I'm
Appreciate
fucking
you.
glad it finally happened.
Yes, indeed.
When you conversate with someone for a while over the phone or over email and then you don't actually, so it's a really good experience. Thanks very much for coming on today.
Thanks
We'll
for
definitely
having
do it again. Definitely have to get you and Greg down here at the same time.
Let's
we'll have
do
a
it.
little bit of a psilocybin retreat in the desert.
I love it.
Guys, today's episode was sponsored by Muse. Muse is probably, in my eyes and in my opinion and lots of others, the number one psilocybin-infused products, chocolate, chews, capsules. Open your eyes to a more vivid life. This stuff really, really helps. And listen, it works for me and it's worked for many others. If you want to know more about it, do the research, okay? Do the research yourself. Don't just jump off the boat and try and cram something down your throat that you have no idea about. Look into it. I did for a whole year before I took the plunge, and I'm glad I did. I wish I had done it sooner. I want to thank my very handsome engineer with a good beard that he might be losing this weekend.
Oh,
That's a great beard.
no, next
Don't
weekend.
lose it.
Next weekend, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
next weekend.
Is it coming off or what?
Yeah, I think we do it for charity.
We might do something for charity.
Ooh, I like
I
it.
haven't had the beard off in years, so
There
we
you
might
go.
take it off for charity.
I like
we
it.
might take it off for charity now. I've said it. I've put it out there. Hey, guys, thank you very much for listening and watching. Remember, if you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. It works better with the algorithm. I do appreciate you. I love you very much. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. This is Marcus Deegan for The Marcus Deegan Show. We're out.